Welcome back to another edition of Should We Care? Today is Sunday, October 23rd, and the topic I want to talk about today is democracy. Should we care? Should we care about democracy in Canada? These days, nothing surprises me when it comes to the Canadian voter, but I feel fairly confident. Well, maybe I'm going out on a limb here and saying that if we were to poll Canadians right now and ask them, do you believe in democracy, we'd probably get a 99% approval rating. Where the challenge comes in is, okay, define democracy. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that today because I think that's something we should be caring about because I see it being eroded. And I'm not the only one when I look at news postings and comments and other bulletin boards I'm involved with. So today I want to talk a little bit about should we care about democracy and should we care what it means? Now, for the sake of argument here, I'm going to go with quite a simple definition. I got it out of the Merriam-Webster dictionary online. So democracy, this again in the simplest terms as a noun, is a government by the people. A government in which the supreme power is vested in the people and exercised by them directly or indirectly through a system of representation, usually involving periodically held free votes. You know, it's pretty simple. They do go on to say that it also represents the absence of hereditary or arbitrary class distinctions or privileges. That's an important one. And that's important because those distinctions, those class distinctions, are really what a lot of this Occupy movement is about. You know, so having established that as a baseline for definition, and I'm sure there's people that can pick it apart or argue it one way or another, and which is what I indicated earlier, was where we'll run into problems with defining what democracy is. But for the sake of this, should we care, that's what I'm using today. I'd like to focus for a minute on the two parts of that definition. The one that talked about supreme power being vested in the people and exercised by them directly or indirectly, and the absence of arbitrary class distinctions or privileges. Both of those are items or situations that have been ignored in the last little while. When you arbitrarily tell a body like Air Canada and their union, as an example, that the government is going to intercede because potential threat, and potential because they haven't gone on strike yet, potential threats of health and safety issues to the public in the event of a strike. Pretty flimsy from my perspective, but we accepted it. Now, you know, once, okay, I've seen other governments get involved in strikes and order arbitration, but there's been 3 issues here in less than 6 weeks. Well, I'm sorry, let's take that back to, say, the beginning of the summer. I can't remember exactly when they ordered the posties back. And that was a group that was locked out. They weren't on strike. They were locked out, but all of the press pointed at them. Okay, well, when you're doing this, when government is interceding and forcing these people back to work, taking away their rights to collective bargain, which is something that has been fought for in the last 144 years here in Canada to get it to this point. And I'm not arguing pro or anti-union here. What I'm saying is the union was elected by their members to represent them in negotiations. It's called collective bargaining, and it's part of the democratic process. Okay, well, that right or that ability to exercise directly or indirectly through a system of representation has been taken away on all three of those counts. And it was done as an arbitrary class distinction, which, according to the definition, we should be absent of. So there's a couple of points in regards to how I see our democracy going downhill in this country. Well, those are just a couple of examples. I could come up with 100 more, but I'm not going to bother right now. I want you to think about, what is democracy to you? Now, I can handle, I don't necessarily agree with, I mean, I'm not saying I agree with this, but I can handle a government getting involved in a collective bargaining issue when required. I don't believe it was required for Air Canada, but it happened. But then it's coming from a party that was elected because so many people believed they were voting for the progressive conservative party that their parents used to support. Well, fallacy, because first of all, this is not the progressive conservative party that my father spent his life voting for. Plus, we're ignoring a party who has been slowly eroding rights in the last 5 years through secrecy and lack of detail. Even Texas of all places, the last bastion of redneck in the States, and a huge bastion, has come out against Canada's new approach to this crime, this $9 billion, or I believe it's $9 billion, I could be wrong, towards jails. You want to shave $4 billion a year out of your deficit? We'll take $4 billion right now out of that program, because we obviously don't need those extra prisons. We certainly need upgrading in the prisons we have, but we don't necessarily need $9 billion worth. So, but even Texas is arguing against that. So that to me is a good example that this government isn't listening to anybody except themselves, and that's ideology driven. That's not democracy. The next thing was Lisa Raitt on Friday, suggesting, and this is what she said this on TV. I've left a link below if you want to go and read it. But she's considering redefining the labor code to include the economy as an essential service. The economy. Now, I worked in a field for many years that was an essential service in healthcare. I think a government thinking about moving the economy or protecting the economy as an essential service under the auspice of an essential service in a piece of legislation like the Labor Code, that is not democratic either. That is so far from democracy, it frightens me, because that's closer to fascism and communism, actually, if you look that up. I'm not saying the Harper government is communistic, not by any means, but they are certainly dictatorial because they're not listening to anybody. It's purely ideology. When you give them the authority to decide through legislation that the economy is an essential service, then I see why we're having the Occupy movement. So to all of those of you out there that believe in true democracy, open your eyes, because acts like making the economy an essential service are not democratic. They're not even close to democratic. You want to block a little bit of collective agreement, collective bargaining rights? We'll see how that goes. But again, that's not democratic either. That's dictatorial. And that's what we're doing. That's what we're allowing to happen, because those, 60–70% of people that work in non-union environments, you read their comments in the paper, they are so anti-union. This isn't a pro or anti-union rant. This is a rights rant. Collective bargaining is a right that people fought for, and it's being taken away. You throw the economy in as an essential service and watch how quickly other rights will disappear as well. This isn't democracy. This is, as I said, ideology-based dictatorial government. So if you really believe in democracy, then you better start caring about what's going on out there, because behind your back and hidden in semantics and lack of detail, your rights are being eroded, and our democracy is failing because of it. So should we care? Yes. Do you care? Well, you have to have some awareness before you can start to care about this. So start paying attention to what's going on. All right? Just one man's opinion. Have a great day. It's sunny here. I think I might go out and try and enjoy a bit of it. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.